time around this three-team race, as well as the Ravens taking on the Colts this weekend out in the friendly heart of the Midwest. I'm going westward here. He's a Chicago guy. He's out in La La Land of Los Angeles, where we hope to get at some point this fall for some basketball and some fun, maybe even a little baseball, who knows. Maybe it's Orioles and Dodgers in the World Series, I'm not sure. He is the Swollen Dome on Twitter and one of our defending champions here from Fox Sports Radio. We welcome in our dear friend Mike Harmon, back again from Los Angeles, California, where the Rams gave us all quite the show on Saturday night, didn't they, Harmon?
Well, when you get 90,000 people assembled and we can quibble over how many of those were Cowboy fans, how many of those were just looky-loos wanting to kick the tires and see what this, pro football thing is all about. It was a nice viewing experience, to see the stands that packed, to see some of the old L.A. Rams on hand, and the, omnipresent Eric Dickerson there to wave to the good people and everything. So it was fun to have it back. I think folks, as they watched that game unfold, particularly, right at the opening kickoff when Lucky Whitehead returned it. Nice opening for Sean McDonough for his Monday Night Football experience, right? Getting a couple of reps in the preseason. He gets to call an opening kickoff return for a touchdown, had a good one-liner with it. And I think everybody just immediately exhaled. They exhaled and realized, wow, it's going to be a long season. But football's back. People are excited, and the merch is starting to fly off the shelves.
Well, yeah, and I was out with Jen having a dinner over at Roost Chris Pier 5, one of our great sponsors and our supporters for everything we do for There Goes My Hero and our leukemia deal. And we look up, and we were talking about some L.A. plans that we're sort of putting together. And, I look up on the TV, and there it is, 3 hours of – it looked like a real football game. Like, with the sound down, you wouldn't realize that it's fake football, because usually fake football involves what it does here in Baltimore, which is, 40,000 empty seats on a bare minimum, like it does around the league. It was what you would want to see. It was the kind of enthusiasm we had here when we played the Philadelphia Eagles in 1996 in a meaningless preseason game, and when Brett Favre came in 2 weeks later in a meaningless preseason deluge when the Packers were in 96. We had 60,000 people in their seats at kickoff when the Ravens came to town, and that's part of the fun of all of this, right?
Well, that's just it, right? It's all, at least for L.A. right now, it's the experience. It's the newness, right? It's that car just off the lot, still has that nice, air freshener, whichever style you chose. It hasn't been tainted by the kids, the dog, or you spilling coffee.
Are you saying that Case Keenum smells good right now? Is that what you're telling me, Mike Harmon?
Well, I'm going to say Sean Mannion smells good right now after his 3-touchdown performance and leading them back to victory. They didn't cover the number, by the way. It was 4.5. They ended up with a 4-point win.
What kind of a degenerate man gambles aimlessly on preseason NFL football?
Well, that's a good question, but we always make note of those things nonetheless. That's part of the gig. We know what makes the NFL, and most of these sports go around. It's
August, dude. Do something constructive. Bet on baseball.
Yeah, you'd like that, but no. People are already getting in their NFL fix as we go through the gambling world. But you know what Todd Gurley is. You have a pretty good idea of what you have in Tavon Austin. I think there's some nervousness over how good the defense is. A couple of defections of veterans. Still, at least from a name perspective, you got some behemoths there in the front seven that should be able to get things done. But the rest of your offense is suspect. I don't know how good the offensive line is. Quarterback position, Jared Goff's the guy you should be starting, right? You're trying to have star power. You're trying to push the envelope, but now all of a sudden he's already got a shoulder injury. He's supposed to play this week in preseason game 2, but that already makes you a little bit nervous as you go, and you're totally devoid of talent, at least on the surface, at the wideout position. Tight end Higbee that they drafted, there's a little excitement about him, but right now Jeff Fisher in the first run of Hard Knocks was talking about, I'm not going 7-9 with a couple of expletives thrown in. At this point, people here are going, man, he'd be lucky to go 7-9.
Hey, I haven't watched Hard Knocks yet. Give me a little primer on that, Harmon. My wife and I love watching it. We watch it every year. We usually do sort of bulk watch it. We sort of like sometime in the next week or so find 2 or 3 hours and get all caught up,
Yeah, thus far, it was the opener of trying to just, hey, here they are, they're moving, and some witty anecdotes of, hey, this guy, had some issues getting in. getting into camp and getting ready. We saw a guy that was already kicked off. He's since signed with the Eagles, but a wide receiver who broke the golden rule of no girls up in the dorms. So he found his way out of town.
Yeah, I had another coach tell me a very humorous story about a Ravens camp where some fellas had broken the rule number 1A in the coach's book. Don't bring girls into the team hotel, please.
Yeah, it looked like a good opportunity for Jeff Fisher to play the hard guy, which is fine. So that was all fun and good. When you look at
kid's got street cred now, though, right?
Well, that's just it. It's a wide receiver named Dion Long, cut in late July, and we knew that. But now at Hard Knocks, you get the full story, and you get Jeff Fisher doing we've got simple rules. This is our world, and I made myself clear and everything. And then he went on the tirade to the team saying, I'm not blanking going 7-9 and whatever else, which just looked like he was trying to, be an extra in a Hollywood movie now that they've moved back here. But if nothing else, you're looking at.
I have a feeling they're going to go blanking 7-9. I mean, I just on the outside, that's what I see, and that might be good. 7-9 might be a move forward, right?
No, that's just it. As you look at it, like I said, it's all about Todd Gurley. So folks that are looking for someone to follow in this LA move, folks that are looking at fantasy football, they're going to run him and pass to him until he can't take it anymore. And I think that is the extent of their offense. It'll be curious to see whether Case Keenum is in fact the starter. The NFL, given the CBA now, I mean, I bring it up all the time. Folks are like, if they immediately have to play. Most of the time, I disagree with that now because you're not paying the guy the $50 million novelty check before he's played a snap.
Or the Sam Bradford fee is what we like to call it, right?
Yeah, I'm not saying it's cheap. I'm not saying it's easy money, but the fact of the matter is it's not prohibitive anymore to where you have to say, well, this guy's our future, and the future has to start now, especially if they're looking to give GM Les Snead and Fisher contract extensions to make sure that there's a little bit of stability as they get Goff's feet under him. Then there's no reason to start him, which means you get Case Keenum, and if they start out badly, that means those stands are going to start getting empty pretty fast. And what you have right now is a 3-year run where tickets are fairly cheap, right? No seat licenses and anything in that. So you got a 3-year experiment to at least get things to where when that new palace opens up, people still feel like they want to put their money up. And the schedule is pretty backloaded. I mean, you lose one of your home games. The Giants' game is in London. And then down the stretch, you've got a ton of home games, 4 of your final 7 at home, including the final 2, or 3 of the last 4, I should say. So when you start looking at Atlanta, San Francisco, and Arizona coming to town, there might not be anybody left coming to watch those games. You might be able to get up front and personal with Todd Gurley by that point in the season.
Well, at least the weather will be good there in December. We don't have to worry about that. Another cold weather place. Mike Harmon joining us here. He's the Swollen Dome on Twitter as well as a Fox Sports Radio host out in Los Angeles, California. I'm trying to get through this pennant race, man. The preseason football I can take or leave. It's fake football.
Sure.
I am going to be spending this Saturday not in Indianapolis with Andrew Luck or Joe Flacco, but I'm going to be spending it on the north edge of your fair homeland with Edward Vedder up at Addison and Clark on Saturday and Monday. So that's my weekend. But the baseball pennant race, I mean, for Baltimore to jump into this thing, I've talked to a couple people from Toronto. Seeing 45,000 people in the stands there, they're feeling it. Baltimore, we got a homestand here with the Red Sox and the Astros, and I'm not feeling it yet here, and it's certainly a 3-team race, and I don't think anybody really has a strong feeling about who's going to win this thing in the American League East.
Well, that's it. Every team has its flaws, and when we were at the All-Star break, what was the thing you heard? Well, it's the Rangers and the Orioles are the 2 teams most susceptible to being caught. Nobody thought the Dodgers' son, Clayton Kershaw, would be able to make a run at the Giants, but they could still be, all right, we got 7 weeks of baseball left, and when you're talking about a dead heat, it takes one injury, it takes one bad series for things to potentially separate. So I think you got a lot of wishing, wanting, waiting, and hoping. And the advent of a new football season, it's, the dog whistle, squirrel. as it were, in the cartoon, where now you're distracted because you got more than one thing.
But you're distracted in the places where your baseball team stinks. If your baseball team's engaged, I think Cleveland's going to stay. Well, I mean, Cleveland doesn't have a football team, but
no, that's it. Their football team doesn't matter.
Right. Well, I mean, Washington would be a great example of that because the Nationals look like they're not going to have a pennant race at all. They're just going to coast all of September. And, it'll be much more about whether the Redskins are 3-1 when the playoffs start in Washington. So I hear that. And in Chicago, no one cares about the Bears, right? It's all Cubs.
Yeah, I mean, the Bears, obviously, the diehards, because if you're a guy like me that grew up on the South Side, you don't really care about the Cubs. You're waiting to see how this horror story is written in the final hour.
By the way, on Sunday, when you're having breakfast in L.A., I'll be having elotes con chorizo y cerveza down on the 35th. So I will be with your Sox in heart, spirit, and probably beverage on Sunday.
There you go, and I'll be in a radio studio talking about the greatness of the National Football League and starting to do fantasy football talk. But, yeah, I mean, you'll be hanging out with noted Cub fan Eddie Vedder and his crew, and I appreciate you.
Hey, arms raised in a V, right?
That's right. He wrote a song about the Cubs and victory, and he had a big moment with Ernie Banks on there with, handing over a childhood mitt and all stuff. Like there's a lot of history there. So it's all good story. I'm still a South Sider, and unless they're signing me a paycheck.
And last you checked,
we wait for the Cubs to blow up.
Last you checked, you won last, right?
Well,
last you checked, you had a parade.
I hate hanging on to things from 11 years ago, but sure.
Hey, dude, there are people in Pittsburgh hanging on to 75 that I deal with around here.
Well,
so,
I deal with folks that, are hanging on to the Raiders of the 70s. So, I mean, I know it's all over the place.
Well, but baseball is fun, and when you're in a pennant race, which we look, Mike. I don't want to be crass here, and I could sit here all day and make your head spin on the Angelos negativity, right? Because I've lived it.
Right.
But all that being said, we have not really had a pennant race here in my child's lifetime. Like '96 was a come from behind. No one believed in that team till they got there. It was the dawn of the wild card. '97, the Orioles ran away and hid. They were wire to wire, and then blew up against the Indians. They haven't had a pennant race in almost 2 decades, and then in 12. There was no one really believed the Orioles were going to make the playoffs and win. And then in 14, they ran away and hit again. So this is the first time we're literally every game scoreboard watching for 7 weeks, and there's really no reason at all to believe that this isn't a 3-team race. Hell, the Yankees might win a little bit here and get some energy and somehow get involved in this thing. They're certainly not going away yet the way we thought they were going to go away after the sell-offs. This looks to be like everybody's going to be all in come September 15th or 20th. And there's still going to be a couple of games apart.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the great things as we're coming down the stretch, and that's the division that everybody should be paying attention to, because the Yankees, while out, seemingly, they're 5.5 games out of the lead. They've played better baseball with this ragtag collection of players, guys that we all thought were over the hill, and they got interesting only when it really got awkward with Alex Rodriguez, because they've been pretty boring all year, but there they are, sitting a couple of games ahead of 500 and still maybe helping to decide how this race comes down. But, it's, again, the shift of energies, right, as you're between the Olympics and whatever siphoned off there. You've got the advent of football, college football, tangentially in a lot of markets that change it up. But I think it's a fun race because you're learning a lot of new names during this process, and I think that's great for the game that you're seeing these new teams. You're seeing guys that have been dominant in relative anonymity. I mean, anybody that really follows baseball knows who Manny Machado is, but suddenly he's a top-notch guy on the highlight shows and is in everybody's mentions, as you start talking about MVP consideration and the next, when we always talk next.
Yeah, you want to see Manny Machado hit .410 over the last month and, lead the Orioles to a 21-7 finish. Somebody's going to do that. It might be Betts. It might be Bradley. It might be Encarnacion. It might be Bautista. But Donaldson, somebody's got to step up right now. It might be Dylan Bundy, for crying out loud. That's what makes it interesting because Chris Davis hadn't hit his weight in 4 months,
right.
but maybe he hits 375 the rest. Somebody's going to catch fire, and somebody's going to be a hero here.
Well, and the fact that I got a guy from Northwestern and Jay Happ that might be the AL Cy Young Award winner. I mean,
remember when we all hated that price for Hap thing back in the offseason? Remember that?
Yeah, I mean, there's just all these crazy things that baseball is a funny game. You watch it all the time. You say I've seen it all. I mean, earlier this week when Bartolo Colon pitched, you had him actually walk for the first time in his life. Man, that's a guy that's been playing professional baseball since you and I were knee high to a grasshopper, and he has his first walk at the plate. So it'll be a fun 7-week run. I hope it doesn't get lost as everybody heads over to the gridiron because again, there's new heroes to emerge. We know some of the big names, but others starting to rise up and get their just due. And in that division, get the popcorn ready. It's going to be fun. So,
Harmon, now that my wife is doing better, we've started to go out and shake a leg, get some rock and roll going here. So, the last couple of weeks, we've seen some great shows, man. We saw Styx the other night in Lancaster. We saw Def Leppard and REO, but Tesla didn't make it, which really sucked for me because I love Tesla.
That's too bad.
Yeah, it sucked. But, I mean, it still was a great show. We've seen Huey Lewis. I'm going to see Springsteen a couple times in the next couple of weeks, so I'm into that. Henley in a couple of weeks, so I'm into that. It's been a good summer for rock and roll. I know you've been out a little bit, right?
Yeah, we've gotten out a little bit, and this Friday I'll, take things full circle to, when I was a really young man, when the Guns N' Roses train was white hot.
Where are they playing? Dodger Stadium? Where are they playing?
They're at Dodger Stadium, yeah. So
that's filthy.
2 days.
Damn, should I come out there on Friday to see that and then sneak into Chicago Saturday?
I tell you what, if you make it, you can go buy yourself a pit ticket, meet me and my brother, and the three of us will just take.
Dude, everybody has loved the Guns show, man. It's been I missed that show, and it's been all the rage all summer long. Nobody has disliked that.
Yeah, you got the final 3 shows, so 2 in Los Angeles, 1 in San Diego, and that'll end the North American part of the.
You going all 3?
No, I'm only getting to one of them. I got to work the other 2 days. I did take a vacation this summer when I went to Sweden and everything, so I can't afford to just disappear for multiple days.
How was Stockholm, my man? I love me some Stockholm. It's one of my favorite places.
Stockholm was fantastic.
Isn't that a great place?
Stockholm's always fun. Yeah, we've been back a couple of times. Wife's family. Originally from Sweden, so we go back and visit the aunts and uncles and all the cousins and do some running around. They had the ABBA Museum.
Nice.
So my Eleanor, who she and I got up on a stage and did a little Dancing Queen. You had the ability to sing a couple other songs in the recording booths, set up like they used to run them. So we did that. You had one of the relatives had a little boat.
I would have sung Fernando.
So
that's just me, though. I would have done that.
Well, Fernando, unfortunately, on one of the applications was not an option because that was certainly where I was
There's something in the air tonight.
There you go. The stars were bright.
Fernando.
Nicely done.
Yeah.
Especially when you can start.
I'll do the name of the game next time we're on.
Way up there too.
Absolutely, I love Fernando.
No, that's beautiful stuff. But yeah, so if you do end up venturing that way, if you're ever in Stockholm, I've got a relative that likes giving tours.
I still have a crush on the blonde. I don't know what to tell you, man. I mean, I love me some ABBA. I still haven't seen Mamma Mia yet, but I'll get dragged there before it's all over with. We all do.
Oh, you got to see that. No, that's not getting dragged here. That's a party. People are up in the aisles dancing, singing along. It's Mamma Mia. The stage show is really different.
Yeah.
And they just opened a whole new thing in Stockholm near one of the amusement parks, which was pretty cool because when I was there, they were promoting concerts for Europe and Lionel Richie. So they had these posters all over the place. I've tried to procure them because I thought they'd be cool on my wall, and they're like, no, all those were destroyed after the night of the concert. I'm like, how dare you? I'd pay good money to have those sent to the U.S. because the picture of Lionel Richie was great. He was being advertised on all sorts of cabs or whatever. But what they did in this place right by the amusement park is they turned it into, I don't know if you've seen the movie Mamma Mia, but it ends with a giant wedding scene where, they're having fun and it's like a wedding reception. And now they have an extension off the stage show of, all right, now we're going to do it like the after party.
Who would have ever thought that ABBA would be something we were discussing 40 years later, right?
500 million albums sold worldwide.
It's the name of the game. That's all I can tell you, man. Hey,
dude, dropping more ABBA song time.
I grew up. I mean, knowing me and knowing you. Come on, man. Come on, man. I grew up in the 70s, bro. I mean, there's a little ABBA in all of us. That's all I can say. Well, look, I hope there's
you got to get to that museum.
All right, I'm in.
Costumes and everything.
I'm going to Europe in 2 weeks, but I'm not going to Stockholm. I have promised my wife I would take her to Stockholm. We're going to the ABBA Museum. That's it. Check it. It's on the bucket list. Right next to the Taj Mahal, but right somewhere near the Maldives.
There you go. Somewhere in between there. And the last note on the Guns N' Roses tour, I get the added bonus of the Cult showing up as the opener.
You bastard. I love them. They're great.
Well, it'll be interesting to see that live after all these years because I haven't seen them in a good 20. So it could be interesting.
You might need a towel before Guns N' Roses even takes the stage. You need to towel off out there. Cult's going to rock you out there. Get there early, I'm telling you.
Oh, it's going to be great. Doors open at 5. We're down in the pit right by the stage. I'm hoping to recreate the occasion of Duff McKagan, who flipped me off 23 years ago or 24 years ago now. We'll see if we can get that recreate that scene.
Take me down to Paradise City, Bubby.
There you have it, brother.
Good having you on. Always a pleasure. Keep the faith out there. We'll check in again before the pennant race is over.
Good chatting, brother. Safe travels. You and your wife. Good to hear that she's up and able to be in part of this tomfoolery.
Yeah, well, and it has been such. I mean, we're mixing more things in. Bonnie Raitt's coming down the pipe next week. We got ZZ Top. We got things happening around. We got rock and roll to get to. Man.
Rock and roll, baby.
We got shows we got to get to right in the nick of time. Absolutely. He is Mike Harmon, the Swollen Dome, on Twitter as well as at Fox Sports Radio. I am Nestor. Nasty at WNST.net reaches me. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, and anywhere you are. We are WNST.net AM 1570 and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.